Hey there, I am back with another deck review, and today I'm going to be looking at Ascension playing cards from the one and only Steve Minty. This is the latest in a long line of successful Kickstarters that Steve has done. This one's inspired by, not licensed by, but inspired by the hit TV series and book series Game of Thrones. It comes in two different colors. You've got the silver wolves on my right, and then on the left, the golden lions. For fans of the series, you'll recognize that this is obviously inspired by the Starks and the Lannister families, respectively. Now, as far as sub-themes within the deck, you're going to see bits where on the right, the driving inspirations are going to be loyalty and courage. You're also going to see hits of the moon coming throughout, a nod to the wolf howling at the moon. And then the left, money and power are what motivate the Lannisters, and so you'll see a lot more opulence within this deck. And you also see hits of the sun to give it a little bit of a contrast to the moon of the Silver Wolves deck. And you can think like, lion basking in the sun. So a lot of different kind of cross themes to give some contrast to these two decks. It's not at all just a color swap. So we're going to start by looking at the Silver Wolves. Now, the main color scheme is going to be this black, silver, and turquoise. And that really is going to be primarily, actually entirely, the colors that you're going to see throughout this deck. Very simple color scheme, mostly the black and silver. The center here just has the wolf head and Ascension. It's done in a really beautiful silver foil and a light embossing. It's not really heavy, which I think I like quite a bit on this deck. It says silver wolves across the top, loyalty and courage faintly in gray here, and then playing cards in turquoise at the bottom. The border is going to be a really fairly simple border accented with turquoise, and a bit that I like, and you're going to see this in a lot of the cards, this framing of these branches, empty branches coming through here. Really nicely done. This right here actually is the part of the tuck seal that we'll look at in a second. On the sides, you got Ascension, loyalty, and courage, and then Ascension, loyalty, courage. Bottom's going to be your ad copy for Steve Minty, and it says, made with love and minty fresh, in that really small font there at the bottom. Continues on with the mention of his website, and then the very bottom says, printed in part by the United States Playing Card Company. Very hard to read, but that's what it says. The top is going to have the phases of the moon coming through here, along with a little bit of extra border. More continuation of that tuck seal. And the back's going to be the back design of the cards, obviously done in foil, as is the style. We'll look more at the details of that in a second. The foil tuck seal is a really nicely cut, custom die cut one. Really like what was done on that one. Love the shape. And then has the moon and stars prominently featured at the top. As you open it up, extra little details on the interior, plain black flaps here, and no printing on the inside. I think it's one of the only underwhelming parts of this entire deck. I kind of wish they'd at least, made the interior black or something like that to go a little bit more with the theme. But all in all, it's a really nicely done tuck case. Love what was done with this. It's got a very luxury feel to it. So there's the tuck. Let's look at the cards, and we'll start with the back design. And here it is, just like we were looking at on the back of the tuck case, but it's done in silver inks with lots of hits of turquoise to give it some extra little accents. Obviously, most prominent is going to be this large diamond shape, kind of broken into quadrants. Top and the bottom have the large wolf's head done in those silver metallic inks. Love the beauty and the simplicity of it. Love the details of the fur going through there. Really nicely done. And then on the other two sides, you've got the moon and stars featured with little bits of turquoise. You have the phases of the moon coming through here in the back, as you can see there. And then the border is going to be fairly simple. Again, those branches growing over the corners, and then little bits of turquoise to accent, and then finishing with a thin black poker border. So there's the back design of the cards. Really like what was done there. Turning it over, extra cards, and we'll start with the jokers. So you get a pair, and it's a Diptych Joker, meaning two cards that can form together to make one image. It's a large image of a wolf stalking through the forest. So really nicely done. Very simple, not a lot going on in the background other than the branches growing over the corner, and then you've got the moon and the stars in the back. I do like the touch of the blue eyes on this. That's a really nice accent. And then you have the two crescent moons in the corner. There's your Diptych Joker. You also get 2 other extra gaff cards. You get a double backer and a blank facer. Always great for Magic. Now, the rest of the deck. And we'll start with the Ace of Spades. So the Ace of Spades has the large wolf's head backed by the oversized Spades pip, and Ascension by Steve Minty written in the center. You do have the pips on all 4 corners and then the indexes on the 2 classic corners. I will say the index here is kind of offset a little bit more from the corner than you usually see, which makes it a little bit harder to use for gameplay. You know, if you feign like that, you've got to feign a little bit extra to get to see that number on the corner. And the pip, you got to feign quite a bit more than you might usually have to. One small annoyance with the deck, but I don't know that this is necessarily a gameplay deck anyway. I do like the branches growing through on the corners of each one of these. It's going to be the same branch pattern on each card, but it gives a really interesting shape to the deck. Kind of an organic shape. As you go through the number cards, you're going to have custom spade pips. They're going to be a little bit different than the ones in the corner. We just see a little bit of extra detail. They're almost kind of gray spade pips there in the center. And then the same spade pips in the corners. It's going to continue all the way through full custom, including the layout of the pips all the way through. Really nicely done. And then as you get to the court cards, here they are. Now, you may be looking at these and trying to figure out which characters from the Starks that these are. These are not meant to be characters from the Starks. I mentioned this is not a licensed deck, it's inspired by. So these are reminiscent of characters you might see in Game of Thrones, but they are not themselves. You know, that's not Catelyn Stark there in the center or anything like that. But there you can see the 3 different court cards. 2-way courts. You have the reflected spade pip there in the middle to form a little bit of a border between them. And another detail I really like, all of them are going to have turquoise eyes, which I think is a really striking accent that's added on to all of these. So there's your 3 spades. Now, after looking at a lot of these grayscales, as you turn to the diamonds, you're going to see what seems like a huge hit of color. Those pips and indices now are replaced with a bright turquoise, and I think it's a really, really stark change as you go from one suit to the next. I personally like it quite a bit. About that kind of icy blue color as you go through here. Again, another custom style on the diamond pips, but otherwise the same basic layout that we looked at with the spades. Court cards are going to be more of the same, again, inspired by characters. And then the diamond border there in the center. A lot more turquoise on these, like I said. And then again, those turquoise eyes. Here are the club courts. Now back to a more of a grayscale tone. This Queen of Clubs is actually one of my favorite designs. I really like how the bow forms this extra little diagonal through the center. And then down through the club number cards. There's your ace. You can see a little bit more detail of what that club pip looks like. And then the hearts. I really like the border on these hearts. Not quite exactly an in-your-face heart design, but a little bit more of an organic flowing design there in the center. And down through the rest, and down to the Ace of Hearts. So that's it. That is the look at the Silver Wolves deck. Let's get a look, before we talk about handling and overall of the cards, let's look at the Golden Lions deck. Now, it's going to be very different, both in color scheme and just in the ornate detail that goes through this. The Golden Lions, or the Lannisters, are inspired by money and power. So you're going to see a lot more opulence and detail go through this. It's done in this beautiful red color with gold foil around, really shines. Have the lion's head there in the center. Already mentioned money and power. And then the border now, instead of that being that much simpler border with the branches, is more gold with leaf work going all the way through, including these kind of bits, flowering bits here that are reminiscent of like a club pip. Really beautiful on the front. The sides are going to say Ascension, money and power. Same ad copy there on the bottom. And then the back is just stunning to me. This is absolutely beautiful. You have the lion's heads, the gold foil all the way through. We'll look more closely at that in a second. Your gold tuck seal now is going to be finished with the sun there in the center as well. And then more ornamentation and leaf work and vine work going on the top. As you open it up, more detail, more flash, more gold going there as well. And again, no printing on the interior of the tuck case. The back design of the cards also going to be a lot more opulent. You have those beautiful gold emblems there of the lions, and then the other two sides you've got the sun emblems. A little bit more of a circular pattern than the diamond pattern that you saw on the Silver Wolves deck. And then finished on the borders, instead of that really simple border with just the branches, now you've got tons of leaf and vine work going all the way through. And then finished with a red poker border around the edge. I love the color scheme on this one. I absolutely love the backs of these. I think it's just absolutely beautifully done. That gold foil, or gold metallic ink, the hits of brown, the red, everything just really works well on this one. As you turn it over, you do get a Diptych Joker. This time it's a lion with a sun in the background. Of course, we switched over from the moon theme to the sun theme, and that lion standing very proudly there in the center. And then you have suns on the four corners. That's your Diptych Joker. You get the same extra cards as before, double backer and a blank facer. And then the cards themselves. So same basic theme and layout, but a lot more detail going through. So you have a much less organic and more opulent border going all the way through. Different font on the pips in the corner. And then of course the center is a lion, but now surrounded by a lot more vine work on the spade pip. And then Ascension by Steve Minty. Red background of the cards, which is something you don't see a lot in cards, but I think looks really good on this one. You're going to be seeing some, slightly different details, a lot more ornamentation in the spade pips here compared to what we saw with the Silver Wolves deck. And up at the top, the pips and the indices, same basic idea, but a lot more detail and flash on these. As you get to the courts, they're going to be amped up as well. They're going to look a lot more regal, a lot less like warriors, and a lot more like royalty. All the way through. The spade pips that border the center are going to feature a lot more detail and vine work as well. So there are those. And then as you go through the diamonds, it's really similar. So this is a lot less striking of a color swap. You went from the kind of darker on this one to a red, but because it's red on red, it's not going to pop quite as much as that turquoise did. But there are your diamond pips. I will say one small knock, the red diamonds kind of fade into the background a little bit on this. Not a huge deal, but if I'm gonna nitpick at something on this deck. But there are your diamond courts. And you can actually see here the extra red pops within there as well. And then down to your club courts. That's a really cool one. That's an intimidating looking one right there, with the gray skin. And then down through your club number cards, there's your ace of clubs. And last but not least are your hearts. There are your heart courts. And all the way down through until you get to the ace of hearts. So that's it. That is the two decks. The more opulent and luxurious feeling gold lions, and the stark and proud Silver Wolves deck. I think it's really beautifully done. As far as handling, printed by USPCC, so you're going to be used to the handling of these. It's going to be nice. They're going to handle beautifully if you're good at fans. I'm not particularly great at fans, but that thin poker border should be able to show up a little bit there as you fan these. And it's going to look pretty good from both directions as well. So it's going to work well for handling, fans, cuts, all of that. Uses of the deck. You could definitely use this for cardistry. It's got the handling and everything that you need on this. You could definitely use this for Magic. It's got the gaff cards. It's reasonably readable. You could use it for gameplay. I think that the offset pips make that a little bit more annoying for that, but really it's just an art deck to appreciate. That these days is kind of my favorite type of deck, is just one where you can be there to enjoy the art of these. And I really think that's the niche that these are going to be in, is a collector and art deck. So that's it. That's the look at the Ascension deck, both the Silver Wolves and the Golden Lions. Hope you enjoyed that. I definitely enjoyed getting them, opening them, and diving into them. Subscribe for more deck reviews and unboxings. Don't forget to check out my last video to find out about a giveaway for the Evil deck from Giovanni Moroni. And let me know what other decks you want to see, and I'll see you for the next one.